Welcome to the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. If you guys could just hear the chant that
the energy
that Tyler let out of his mouth. Do
exciting.
It again, Tyler.
No. Excited for the show, that's all.
All right, Oilers Nation, what's up? It's game day. As you guys know the drill. We got a game to recap and an ugly loss at that. Tyler, I understand that the Oilers had back-to-back games. First game, obviously, against the Avs, went to OT. They fought hard. They should have won, some could say. But in my opinion, this isn't the first NHL team to go back-to-back. You can't use that as an excuse, and they need to be winning games against the Stars tonight against the Sharks. And just an unacceptable loss, in my opinion, and they need to pull up their pants for tonight.
Yeah, you're fired up today as well. Like, I agree. Being on back-to-back games, it's definitely a part of the context of the loss, but you can't just be using that as a crutch or as an excuse. And, you know, the bottom line is they had a chance to win that game. They were up by a goal late. When you're in a situation like that, good teams find a way to at least milk a point out of that hockey game. And that's what the Oilers should have done. They didn't, and you lose in regulation. It's an ugly one for this team. They've been playing some really good hockey as of late.
Yeah.
That game against Dallas was sloppy at best, and they ended up paying for it by not getting a point out of it. So it's a big missed opportunity because when you look at the playoff picture in the Western Conference, you had a chance to build up some more separation between yourselves and the Vegas Golden Knights and keep yourself even closer to the LA Kings, and you didn't do that because you lost the game. So really, really disappointing from the Oilers the way they just crumbled at the end there. And then even when they had the goalie out, they didn't even get a scoring chance late in that game. There's a lot of things to not like in that hockey game.
You know, we just saw on the graphic that producer Liam had up, we see named, and for our last, honest to God, like 5 pregame shows, it's been Kane, Yamamoto, Draisaitl, McDavid. Yeah. But we need to see more from other guys on the team. And again, like we say every single pregame show, we're like, it's the same thing every time because I feel like those guys have been the biggest contributors to this Oilers team as of late. But, you know, it's so funny. You came in today, you're like, the lines are completely different. I had a whole spiel ready on Derek Ryan. Derek Ryan's out of the lines, and a couple new guys are in, and the comeback of one guy. So that I feel like all of Oilers Nation is pumped about. So this has to be maybe like an infusion of excitement and positivity for this Oilers team tonight.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about wanting to get more from different parts of your lineup, you nailed it kind of just a couple seconds ago. Brett Kulak coming back helps shore up your 3-pair. Brett Kulak making his debut helps shore up sort of your 3 pairings. Derek Brassard, I mean, he's got 16 points in 31 games. This guy's playing at like that 45-point pace, or at least he was with the Philadelphia Flyers. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is coming back as well. So you're getting 2 pieces that are both being added into your top 9 and are definitely going to help you, you know, produce some more offense. Remember the way that third line was kind of humming along before Nuge got hurt in that game against Florida? They're getting a point-per-game guy back in their lineup today with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Like I said, they're getting Derek Brassard, who can consistently give you some source of offense. He's a new look. Like, if you wanted the depth of the Oilers to step up, I think tonight is a night where it could really start to do that.
Brett Kulak. Thoughts on him because he's another guy in the lines.
Good Stony Plain, Alberta boy. I love the story about when he called his dad to let him know that he was being dealt to the Oilers. His dad was on the tractor at the farm.
I love that.
And Kulak said today his dad and his uncle are both going to be in attendance at the game tonight. So I think it's really cool. Like the angle of a local boy coming home always kind of, you know, pulls at your heartstrings a little, but he's going to be an important part of this blue line for the Oilers. He's going to be on a pairing tonight with Tyson Barrie, and Kulak is a defense first kind of guy. And I think whether he plays with Bouchard, whether he plays with Barrie, he gives the Oilers a strong defensive presence on the back end. Yep. He'll be playing with a good puck mover as well, so I think him and Barrie can kind of use their strengths to each other's advantages, and he's used to playing tough competition. I think Jay Woodcroft can use him in a lot of different situations. This is a guy in Kulak who's playing top pair at points this year for the Montreal Canadiens, so it's an exciting addition. It's always exciting to see new guys in the lineup. Kulak's going to wear number 27. Brassard's going to wear number 16 tonight, and it'll be fun to watch them debut at Rogers Place.
Love it. Let's give some more love to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins because every single pregame show that we do, everyone's like, when's Nuge coming back? What's the update on Nuge? Now he is centering that third line for us tonight. I think the last time we saw him was February 26th, so almost a month ago, and a guy that this team has desperately missed, and a guy that sees the ice so clearly. His IQ is off the charts. It's one of my favorite reasons of just absolutely loving Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and hopefully comes in tonight and really is that game changer for the Oilers.
Yeah, and you just look at what Nugent-Hopkins brings to your lineup. We touched briefly there on the depth scoring, right, and his ability to give them a source of offense in the bottom 6. He's going to bring that. he's going to bring them some offense on the power play as well. That's an area he's been a big part of over the last 2 seasons, and the power play is still struggling right now. So I think having Nugent Hopkins, a guy who just doesn't make a ton of mistakes with the puck, back in his usual spot on the power play, that'll be huge. Their penalty kill has struggled recently as well. Nugent Hopkins is one of their best penalty killers. So he comes in, he touches every sort of part of this lineup. He gives you solid, responsible minutes at 5-on-5. He's important in both of the special teams. It's a very welcomed addition. Like, he was out and they were winning games, right? That 5-game run at home was great, but just having him back is such a big boost for this team, and it's easy to look at their forward lines, which we'll do in a second, and go, man, this team probably has the depth up front to go on a nice run.
Let's talk about Jesse Puljujarvi, and we talked about him last pregame show, but there was one moment in particular in the game against the Stars where he had a chance to shoot. Yeah. He passed to Hyman, I believe.
Yeah, it was right in between the two face-off circles.
And to me, that comes down to this guy's lack of confidence because, I mean, he knows what he was supposed to do in that moment. I think that maybe he just got into his head a little. Last goal he scored was against the Ducks on February 17th. Then we know he was out with injury. 2 assists against the Devils the other night. But since he's been back, and again, I'm very sympathetic to the fact that this guy was out for a long time. He was dealing with an injury. You're going to see the same thing with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. But you have to admit, when the dust settles, he's not that effective two-way player and that big presence up top for the Oilers that, you know, they desperately need.
Yeah. Him. You need more out of a guy like Jesse Puljujarvi. It's a little concerning, but again, like you said, like coming back from an injury, it takes some time. The thing I like here, they're moving him down to the third line tonight. I think that's a good decision. I think get him away from the sort of the pressure of having to keep up with McDavid and Draisaitl. Let him be a guy who even drives play on a line with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And even though Woodcroft is bumping him down to the third line, he's putting them up on the top power play unit. Yeah. And I like that decision as well from Woodcroft. You know, sometimes all a guy needs is a bounce to really get going.
Oh, big time.
And on the power play, he's not going to have to carry the puck into the offensive zone. He's just going to have to park himself in front, use his big 6'4" frame, and try to knock in some loose pucks around the crease. And I think putting him in that spot is putting him in a spot to succeed. Like maybe a puck just goes in off his skate. Maybe a puck goes in off his ass, and he starts to get rolling a little bit and get a little bit of confidence. So I love that Woodcroft puts him in a position to succeed on the third line, takes a little bit of the pressure off him, but also kind of throws him a little bone as well and goes, hey, you know what? See if you can get one on the power play for us. See if you can get back to doing what you did at the beginning of the year, which for Puljujarvi was playing a simple game that just saw him go to the net, stick on the ice, use his size, and be that prototypical power forward.
Yeah, no, I saw a lot of people unhappy with him on Twitter last game, and I get it, but I think people need to understand that sometimes these things take a little time for him to get back into his groove. So we'll see how it goes tonight. Okay, lastly, about our recap, Mikko Koskinen, 23 saves on the night. You had a fun tweet saying Koskinen holding a sloppy Oilers team in it. Thoughts on Mikko?
Yeah, people weren't happy with the goals he gave up, specifically the first one to Jason Robertson, which was, I get it, maybe sucked a little bit of the momentum out of you, but I mean, Mikko Koskinen's been playing well for a while, so I'm really willing to cut him a little bit of slack on that goal against, and then he makes up for it. It's not like he gave up the weak goal and then the Oilers were chasing the game. The Oilers fell apart after he gave up that goal, and Mikko made, 4, 5, 6, 10 bell saves? That game could have been out of hand pretty early on, and it was Mikko Koskinen that was the one holding them in it. So I get the goals against maybe rubbed some people the wrong way, and yeah, it came at a bad time and all that when they were up in the hockey game, but I also look at the saves he made after to hold them in that hockey game, and I go, yeah, that's why I think Mikko Koskinen should be this team's number one. I think they're treating him like a number one as well. You might look at the fact that Mike Smith's getting the start tonight and go, they're going back to Smith because they don't have faith in Mikko. I think Mike Smith's getting the start tonight because it's a weak opponent, and you got a tough game against Calgary coming up on the weekend that you want Mikko rested for.
All right, guys. With that, let's move on to our opposition report presented by Yeg Burger. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers are on home ice tonight, taking on the 28-27-8 San Jose Sharks, who are almost at the bottom of the Pacific Division. They're coming off back-to-back wins, Tyler, against the Yotes and the Flames. And a team that if you look at the standings, you're probably going to assume it's a guaranteed 2 points. But if the Oilers don't bring their A game, there are a couple guys on this team, Timo Meier being a specific example, who's leading the Sharks with 60 points on the season, that can capitalize. A game that we say on this pregame show is a must win.
Yeah, it is a must win. Like if you're going to be a playoff team, and the Oilers are certainly trending in that direction, well, you need to go beat teams like the San Jose Sharks. The Oilers have been great on home ice, 5 straight home wins, like we said earlier. But you're right, you can't take your foot off the gas against the Sharks team. Are they a mediocre opponent? Absolutely. They're still 28, 27, and 8 on the year. They've won more games than they've lost in terms of regulation, and 4-4-2 in their last 10. That's not great. They only have 3 wins in their last 10 road games. That's not great. But they're coming off a win against the Calgary Flames, who are one of the best teams in the conference, best team in the division. So they're capable of stealing games. You can't take them lightly in this hockey game at all.
Let's move on to our lines for the San Jose Sharks. Who are a couple guys that we need to know about?
Well, the top line is certainly one to keep an eye on because that's where the Sharks' 2 best players are. Tomas Hertl and Timo Meier not playing their best hockey as of late, just 2 goals combined in their last 5 games. Alexander Barabanov is on the right side. The second line is Logan Couture with Rudolfs Balcers and John Leonard. Nick Bonino with Scott Reedy and Noah Gregor, nephew of Jason Gregor. And this fourth line, I mean, you try saying these names. Sasha Chmelevski with Jeffrey Veal and Jonah Gajovic. I maybe got one of those right.
I think you got all of them right.
Their depth falls off in a hurry is my point up front. Like, that top line is really good. It can win them games. It's capable of doing that. After that, I mean, there's just not a lot of NHL talent there. Like, Couture's good. Leonard and Balcers are good bottom 6 guys, but they're up on the second line. I like Noah Gregor, but he's been kind of snake pit all year. He's a good NHLer, but again, there's just not a ton of depth on this forward group for the Sharks. And you could almost say the same thing on the blue line. Like, they have their 3 sort of cornerstone pieces. Burns on the top pair, Carlson on the second pair, Vlasic on the third pair. You know, those guys are all a little bit past their prime, but they're still good, effective defensemen. But then the guys they haven't paired with, Jacob Megna, Ryan Merkley, Nick Milosh, there's not a ton of depth there. They have 1 good D-man and kind of 1 replacement level guy on each of these pairings for the most part. So I think that depth is something the Oilers can expose in this hockey game. Starting between the pipes tonight for the San Jose Sharks, by the way, is going to be Kaapo Kähkönen making his San Jose Sharks debut. He was in net when the Minnesota Wild beat the Edmonton Oilers back on February 20th, but his last 5 starts in the Wild organization were not good. 19 goals against, a record of 0-4-1. Kähkönen, again, he's an okay NHL goalie, but not a guy who will likely come in and steal this game for the Sharks, at least knock on wood. You're hoping not. This is a game the Oilers should absolutely win tonight.
Raj is saying Logan Couture is an Oiler killer. They better bring their A game or don't see a win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Couture, sure, he's an Oiler killer. He has been throughout his career, but a lot of those times when he's killed the Oilers, that's been a Stanley Cup caliber Sharks team on the other side. This is more of a draft lottery caliber Sharks team. So I'm not like overly concerned. If the Oilers bring their A game or their B plus game, they should be able to win tonight. Mike Smith's got to be solid, hold up his end of the bargain. But I think if you're an Oilers fan, considering how well they played in Colorado, considering how well they played on that 5-game homestand, you got to be like pretty confident in them tonight.
And how about for the Edmonton Oilers? And let's talk about all the new and fun stuff we got going on today.
Yeah, it's totally different lines here for the Edmonton Oilers. Starting on the top line, Connor McDavid, Evander Kane, Kyler Yamamoto. That's actually the one trio that's staying consistent. The second line, I love the decision here from Jay Woodcroft. He's going Draisaitl down the middle, Hyman on the right side, Ryan McLeod on the left side. I think McLeod is just getting lost in the shuffle too much on that fourth line, not getting enough minutes to be effective. He's been good next to Leon Draisaitl this year. I like that they're going back to that combination. The third line, the new guy, Derek Brassard, he'll be on the left side. Jesse Puljujarvi on the right side. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins down the middle. Really excited to see how that trio kind of meshes in their first game together. And the fourth line will be Devin Shore with Warren Foegele and Zach Kassian. That's a heavy fourth line to be thrown out there. Hopefully, if Foegele and Kassian are both rolling, it can be a line that generates some energy for the Oilers through their physical play. The D pairings, Nurse with CC, Keith with Bouchard, and Kulak with Barry. Chatting a little bit with producer Liam before the show, and he talked about how, maybe Kulak could overtake Duncan Keith on that second pairing eventually. I think they're going to use Keith and Bouchard and Kulak and Barry really evenly. Like, I don't think there's necessarily a second and a third pairing there. I think you'll notice that their minutes and the matchups they're getting are really similar and really even. So they really do have a top pairing with Nurse and CC. You want to see a bounce back game from Darnell Nurse absolutely tonight. And then sort of 2 second pairings almost with Keith and Bouchard and Kulak and Barry. And of course, Mike Smith gets a start between the pipes. He was good against Colorado. He needs to keep it rolling.
On the Mike Smith topic, we have Chris saying, do you have a little more confidence in Smith now that he has strung together a couple good games?
No, I need to see more still. Like, again, two games, it's fine, but like Mikko Koskinen went on a run where it was 12 straight good games, right? Where he was basically giving up 2 or 3 goals every single night. You need that from Mike Smith here. You need him to show that inconsistency is sort of out of his game. And there's a chance for him to win back the starter's crease. I'm not totally closing the door on that, but he needs to do more than just play 2 good games. It needs to be 3, 4, 5, 6 good games till I'm willing to have the conversation that, yeah, maybe you can trust him more than Mikko.
So you're going into this game being like, goaltending's still an issue?
Yeah, I mean, goaltending is going to be an issue the rest of the season for the Oilers because they don't have a legitimate number one. I think Mike Smith just needs to do more than play back-to-back good games. I want to see more. Like, the Oilers need that consistent 905 to 910 goaltending from their two guys. And Mike Smith, again, good for a couple of games here. He needs to keep proving it, though. He's still in show-me territory.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm too trusting, but I'm not really worried. And knock on wood as I say that. I still think Mikko's our number one guy, and I feel like Stuart Skinner should be our number two guy. But that being said, I'm not worried about it. And last time I felt like that was against the Avs, and we played really well. One more question here from Chris, or not a question, just saying Nuge comes back and is on fire tonight, just like the last time he was injured and came back. And I have a feeling that Nuge is going to be kind of that ignition that this Oilers team needs. And I think that the home crowd's going to be so pumped to have Nuge back, and we all know what he can do on the ice. And I really hope he gets Jesse Puljujarvi going, guys, because I'm a big Bison King fan.
You're slamming the table?
Yeah,
that's how fired up you are about it.
I don't like any Jesse Puljujarvi slander. And I think we need to remember he's coming back from injury. And he's going to do what he does best. Just, exactly that. He's got to get the monkey off his back.
A lot of talk in the Twitch chat about the Darnell Nurse contract. I'm not going to get into that on this show because it's a hell of a conversation to have.
Tyler?
It would take too long. We'll get into it maybe today on Real Life.
Are people saying that they do think the Darnell...
Mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. There's a good, healthy debate going on in the Twitch chat. Also, a lot of talk about how this show has stepped up its hair game today. All I did was not wear a hat. Caroline actually went and got her hair done.
I did get my hair done. It's very subtle, but it's done. Producer Liam has no hat today. Tyler has no hat today, so we said it's a big hair day on the
So if the Oilers win, do we have to go no hat until they lose?
Yes, absolutely. That's what it means. Everything we're wearing and everything we're doing, and we can't shower.
That's not a problem for me.
Just kidding.
Saturday's pregame show is going to be a little bit different as well because we're going to be on the bus going out to Calgary. You're not going to be with us, so I think it's going to be me and Jay live on the bus from Calgary. Jay has told me that I need to find a way to make it work. So logistically, it'll be an interesting pregame show. It's going to be a bit of a different flavor. Maybe I think Bagged Milk's going to be working the camera. It might be a mess, but it'll kind of be a mess worth watching, I think.
I don't think anything Tyler does can be a mess. All right, let's move on to our bet of the game presented by PointsBet. What you got for us?
Bet of the game, the Oilers are favorites in this game, minus 245 on the money line. They're minus 150 in regulation. Even money on the puck line. I kind of like that puck line spot for the Oilers. I think they can roll here tonight. Their team total is set at 4 with the over paying plus 120. That's not a terrible spot either. Connor McDavid's been on an absolute heater as of late. 4 multi-point games in his last 5. He's hit that mark 7 times in his last 10 as well. If you like McDavid to go over 1.5 tonight, plus 110 on PointsBet. That is tremendous value. I am all over that. I'm also all over the Oilers to win the first period back on home ice, paying plus 115. A bunch of really nice spots here. I think Edmonton can roll over San Jose.
Talking about heaters and Oilers Nation, you let me know what you think in the chat. Kailer Yamamoto, 10 points in his last 7 games, 6 goals in his last 7 games, and I think the heater continues tonight against the San Jose Sharks.
He's playing some unreal hockey, and when you're, the old saying, right, you got to be good to be lucky, lucky to be good. I mean, he had a beautiful deflection going to the net on that Evan Bouchard shot to keep his streak going. Well, it's true.
I like that one.
You know, it's kind of like you got to make your own luck, right? Like
yes.
That deflection goal from Yamamoto. Great skill to get the deflection, but on all those goals, there's an element of luck. Yeah. But you put yourself in that spot by going hard to the net. You put yourself in that spot by working hard, forcing turnovers, keeping pucks in. I really do think that's how Yamamoto's been able to build this nice streak here. A little bit of luck, but a ton of really good effort. If you like Yamamoto to score tonight, plus 200 to find the back of the net. He is also minus 149 to pick up a point in this hockey game, plus 270 to go over a point and a half. Who knows? Maybe the Oilers just keep rolling tonight.
Tyler Yaremchuk, a philosopher, ladies and gentlemen.
Switching rules a little bit.
I like it. All right. Anything else in your comment section?
Genesis says I'm allowed to shower, win or lose. That's encouraging. Thank you. Talk about how much money Evander Kane might have on the board tonight. It is still that revenge game for Evander Kane.
Right,
the Oilers beat the Sharks last time.
True. Yes.
3-0. So Edmonton's handled them pretty well so far this season. The other thing I didn't really touch on is that this is a super banged up Sharks team as well. Missing Simic and Ferraro on the back end. Missing a guy like Kevin LeBanc up front. So that's something again. The Oilers should be able to take advantage. This should be a win. If you don't win this game, I'm going to be fired up on Saturday when we do our next pregame show. And again, if you don't win these games that you're supposed to, that's how losing streaks develop, right? We talked about that before. We talked about that before the game against New Jersey when we were like, hey, if you don't win this one, you have 2 tough back-to-back games on the road, which they ended up being. If you don't win the games you're supposed to, those little 2-game losing streaks where it's like, you played good teams, That's how they turn into 3, 4, 5, 6 game losing streaks. You got to take care of business tonight.
Not to mention, I mean, games against the Stars, against the Sharks, these are ones that you have to kind of win and put in your back pocket. So when you go and take on a team like the Avs, or you go to Calgary to take on the Flames for a Battle of Alberta, you kind of have that cushion. So again, we always say on this pregame show, it's a must freaking win for the Oilers.
Out-of-town scoreboard tonight, things you're going to want to keep an eye on. 8 o'clock tonight, Nashville takes on Vegas. Chicago takes on the LA Kings. So those are the 2 games you're going to want to keep an eye on from an Oilers playoff push perspective.
Howard says we're jinxing. Don't worry, Howard. We're knocking on wood constantly, and my crystals are in a safe place. So don't worry, Howard. We got the magic on our side. All right, everyone. This has been your Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. And Tyler and Caroline, producer Liam, we're out. We'll see you on Twitter.
Get Yegg Burger for dinner.
Yes, and your Kit Kat milkshake.